I'm going to have a conversation with a couple people that I care about, and we'll see how it all ends up. So, well, let's flip the script a little bit and talk about. Okay, so when did you start using? How old were you?
Oh, 14,
Right. What about you?
I was 17.
17. Right. So let's talk about that.
Just don't stop moving. Netflix is great, Hulu, all that other stuff, sitting on the couch. But I'm more interested in like, all right, I haven't taken the dog to the dog park in a while. And then when I get back from there, it's like, oh, such and such movie is about to start at this theater. So let me go over and see that. After that's done, what can I do for my mother? Can I, do something for her?
So I try to speak German to her a little bit because I've been learning German since I got incarcerated up until I still do it now. I learned from textbooks, and then now I use Duolingo because I want her to be bilingual. I mean, I want her to be able to at least recognize and have some kind of fluency in different language. Since we're immigrants anyway. My dad speaks German. He's from Austria.
Jimmy, I did nothing. I mean, nothing. For years. I don't even know how I graduated college, got engaged, got married, had 2 kids.
So with my life, I just wherever it takes me, I'm willing to go. The thing I learned is that I just want to enjoy the moment. And in fact, I would love to be able just to go to meetings and not have to worry about money. So I mean, I do put some money in bonds and just set it and forget it. Glad to be here.
We're friends in recovery. We play golf together, right? We've shared church basements together. We've shared some deep conversations together. We've shared life together. Yeah. I have the benefit of knowing both of you guys, at a reasonably intimate level, because I've seen. I arrived just before you guys arrived, so I saw both of you guys arrive in the early stages of recovery, and I was in the early stage of recovery too. Mm-hmm. So, and I've watched you both build lives and flourish, right? You know what I mean? Turn to what's next.
Yes.
So, full disclosure for those who watch the show, who haven't seen us do it like this, we've never had 2 people on the show at once, so we're not really sure how it's all going to play out or how it's all going to go. I'm going to have a conversation with a couple people that I care about, and we'll see how it all ends up. So, a couple things. One is the inner circle of people that I've brought on the show in the last 2 years now has been a blend, but mostly people who are from Delaware County, Pennsylvania, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Delaware, like this region. Mm-hmm. Right? Eventually we anticipate that as things grow and we get more traction, we'll probably bring in people from longer distances. But like we talked about before we even got here, one, we can't fuck this up. Okay, we can't fuck this up, right? You know what I mean? Right. There's no format here. I'm not sitting here with a pre-listed group of instructions or questions or whatever. And if we run across some topics that are not safe for work, which we will leave those in the reel. But if we run across some topics that are not safe for family and friends or a little bit too rough, we'll put some considerations into that as we go. But frankly, the more open and honest we are, the more beneficial it is to us, and frankly, the more beneficial it is to people who view us. Because most people view us, they view a surface of us.
Yes.
They don't really know the deep level of us. They don't know where the fuck we came from. Right? They don't know the hell we came from.
Yeah.
Right? And we're miracles today. Right, so we get to celebrate that.
Amen.
So I'm trying to think of which one of you I met first, because it was right around the same time, but it was probably you, Timmy. Am I right? It was pretty close. Okay, so the first time I met Rob was at Thursday at the couch meeting.
That's right.
And I think you were fresh out of incarceration, if I remember.
Absolutely.
All right, there we go, man. So, you know what I mean? But miracles are right in itself. You know what I mean? The freedom that comes from living a clean life, right? You know what I mean? And I remember you being concerned and fearful. Let's talk a little bit about that. So, first of all, you from Delaware County originally, Rob?
I am, yes. Delaware County. Grew up in Springfield. My parents moved to Edgemont, and I grew up in Rose Tree Media School District.
How many? I know your sister. How many siblings you have total?
Just my sister.
Just your sister and you. Okay. You know, you're the better half. She's the better half.
We're both equal.
We'll skip that.
Right
We'll
now,
skip
yeah,
that
we're both
question.
equal now. It used to be one side of it.
Yeah.
Now we're both on the same side.
Okay, that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. So, and was your father always a restaurateur?
He was. My father is an immigrant, first generation, grew up in Austria.
Right.
Went to school there for culinary school, then moved to Vancouver, then
Okay.
ended up in the Caribbean on a cruise ship, all cooking. Then ended up in Malvern, and then he opened up his first restaurant in, I believe it was like 85, a year before I was born.
Okay.
And
God, I feel old.
that's when I was introduced, to the restaurant business. My mom's water broke in the restaurant, seating people, and ever
Literally
since then,
born into
restaurant
born
business.
into
That's
it.
right. Yeah,
Born into.
I
it.
do love it though. I mean, people say it's very difficult, and it is, but you just got to, not cut corners, but make it easier on yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
What about you, Timmy? So you're from where in Delaware County originally?
Ridley Township,
Okay, you're
Folsom.
from Ridley. Okay. And when I first met you, I think you were fresh out of incarceration-ish.
Ish.
As well, right? I think some of the first conversations you and I had were the challenges associated with trying to navigate
Yep.
parenthood, right?
Absolutely.
Early recovery,
Yeah.
all the challenges associated with that. So, how many siblings? You have siblings?
2 brothers.
2 brothers. Older, younger?
54 and 52.
Okay, so they're all close to my age.
Yes.
Okay.
You're 53, maybe 51.
And you're the youngest, right?
Yes.
Yeah, how old are you?
46.
Rob, how old are you?
38.
God bless you. I can't even remember 30. Right. So okay. So let's figure out how we go with this. So now, what did your family? What was your father's background? What did he do?
Engineer, Boeing helicopters, 35 years.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Mom was various jobs, paralegal, worked for a tobacco corporation. But, she retired
Well, at least
earlier.
it don't give you cancer. You know what I'm saying? There's no health risks that come with
Right.
consummation of tobacco.
Right.
Won't really hurt you.
My father was like, he actually, funny story, he watched someone like have a heart attack, I believe, like exiting Boeing helicopters, and then went home. Like the guy passed away, I believe, and he went home and he's like, Sylvia, I saw something, and I don't want to die, in this place. So he met with like a financial advisor. They got together, they ran some numbers, and he worked like another 2 years, and that was it. He retired at like 52 or something.
God bless him.
Yes.
There you go.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So
Now, I know you're kind of on and off close with your sister. I mean, you've had moments, but you know what I mean? I know her as well. Or at least, I probably don't know her as well as I know you. We've never played golf together, she and I. Right? You know what I mean? So, are you close with your brothers?
I am.
Okay.
I wasn't always.
Okay.
No.
Okay. There's the benefits of the way we change, right?
Yes.
That's
Yes.
pretty awesome. So, all right. So, how long have you been clean?
10 years.
10 years.
Change.
And you have been clean.
7 on July 25th.
Oh,
God
no.
bless.
Lucky 7.
Lucky 7. That's
God
awesome.
willing, right? I wake up
Well,
on July.
I like to say sometimes God willing, but I got to do the work.
Yes.
Right? You know what I mean? There ain't, right? There ain't no God stopping me from using. I'm the one that has to make a decision just for today.
Amen.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I hear people say that all the time, and I'm like, yeah, God willing. You know what I mean? He's there to support you. But if you make a decision, you got free will.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's your decision ultimately. And each day we make a decision just for today, not to get high no matter what.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And because we get to make that decision, we get to make so many other decisions, don't we?
Yes.
Right? So, full disclosure, out of us 3 guys, I'm the best on the golf course. It's the worst.
And
it's
the
the
most
worst
handsome,
one.
huh?
I'm the most handsome, but we'll go with that because I'm the only one that's not really keeping score, right? You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, we start out and I'm like, first tee box. We were laughing, Rob and I, last time we played. I was like, you guys are all jealous because I get to see all these angles of the golf course.
Yeah.
You guys don't see. I'd see it from the woods and from the water line and from the salad and between these trees. And, you guys are all on the green. You're missing all the good spots. All the good spots. You get the good view. You know what I mean? So, but we've actually over the course of this last couple of years, like gotten together and played some more golf together, and that's for me. It's an exercise in humility, right? Because it is not one of those things that I can quickly master. It's not any of those things that I feel like I will ever master, frankly. Every once in a while, I hit a good shot with you guys, and that just makes it feel like I can keep going.
Makes it all worth it.
Yeah.
And I've seen them. Like,
Oh, yeah.
there were times where I was like, whose ball is that on that green? They were like, it's Jimmy's. I'm
Yeah.
like, whoa,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, once in a while.
It was the one at the outing when we were at Lanark, and
Yeah.
we were playing, what was it, best ball or whatever it is? Is that what it's called?
That was
Yep.
probably it.
Yeah, and everybody, all three of us, just shanked him, and then he ended up.
It was a blind shot, too.
Yeah,
He
it was
could
great.
barely see the top of the flag.
He
And
saved
we get
us
up-
that
yeah.
day. I'll tell you that.
Unfortunately, for the professionals, it's about consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hit one great shot, and then for 7 holes in a row, I can't find my ball. I take more drops than anybody, bro. I mean, literally, I got a bag full of balls. You know what I mean?
But it's those shots that keep you coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Keep
and,
us all coming back.
and frankly, it's probably, at least in part, some sort of a metaphor for what we experience in recovery.
Yeah.
There's 3 different stories that are told, right? That's the stories of people that arrive before you that are successful, right? Because we need hope. And I didn't have a whole lot of hope when I arrived in recovery, right? So, but there were people that had been clean and they were laughing and living great lives. I was like, damn, you know what I mean? Like I felt horrible inside, and my life was a shambles, right? So, and then eventually we get to tell, as time progresses, we get to tell our own stories, right? You know what I mean? Like stories of hope about how we stayed clean, and then how we build our lives, with this gift that we've been given. And then the third story, and I think the story that's sometimes often missed, is the story that we tell of people that come after us, right? Because the sooner I can transition about telling my story, because my story we'll celebrate 12 years in November, right? But we ain't copping short or early, right? You know what I mean? That, my story is not as relatable to the newcomer. Because I know when I arrived and I saw people with clean time like I have, and I don't consider myself to have an enormous amount of clean time, but I couldn't relate to somebody like me, right? But to tell a story of somebody or allow somebody the dignity and grace to tell their own story with 30 days or 60 days clean, or somebody who, frankly, the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop using. So for somebody to show up who's struggling and just, trying to find a way to make it to midnight, not use, somebody who's just showed up in a meeting, frankly, and is struggling, those are the stories that I think sometimes, we get so, when I say we, I mean me. I can get so caught up in, I want to tell my story that I can run roughshod over somebody that could potentially save somebody else's life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and and I said to my son today something that that my sponsor says to me all the time. There's one word that describes what we can do around here, and that word is more. Right? So you get to a point where my life is good and everything's okay, and I'm managing all these other things, right? And when they talk about we only keep what we have by giving it away, the one thing that most people miss about that is that when I continue to share with a newcomer or treat a newcomer well, or like treat them like a human being, like I'm making a connection for them, like somebody made a connection for me. I remember how jammed up you were when we first started talking, right? You know what I mean? Like, you were trying to navigate your way through your children's lives.
Yes.
And how painful. All right, we had a couple conversations, man. It makes me almost teary-eyed.
Yeah. Just
thinking about, because when I experience, I'm an empath. When you feel pain, I do too, right? Especially if it's pain I can relate to.
Yeah.
And when I first met you, you were right up on the edge of that motherfucker.
I was debating whether or not to take my ex-wife to court for custody and, and then I'm also dealing with a father who had yet to stop drinking.
Right.
So,
Right.
You know, between those two, I was stressed, right?
Yeah.
Jobless, carless.
Not that way no more.
Not that way anymore.
Now, Rob, when I first met you, right, I was also sharing the room with who would ultimately become your other half, which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? Like, I remember her child, right, before you were together. You know what I mean? And he was, you know, sometimes in the rooms we you know, it takes a village. Sometimes it takes a room. Like, we collectively, you know, help to assist in, you know, making her and her child feel comfortable so they could navigate their way through. You know what I mean? Because it's hard. You bring a small kid. Yeah. He wants to run around. He wants to act crazy. And I think sometimes people are like, oh, it's really getting in the way.
And you're just trying to get clean and you're single.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Difficult. So let's talk about that a little bit. So,
You know, when I met her, it was in a 12-step program, and I actually told her she was new. And one of the things that I like to do is when I see people who are new, I like to ask them to share or chair the meeting, because at that time we didn't have a lot of home group members, and it was before COVID, and she joined the home group a little bit before that, and you know, Caleb was running around hiding his diapers everywhere. It was a good time, you know, fun. And that kind of just started our conversation together. And then, you know, we ended up, you know, really hitting it off. And I just want to say, you know, congratulations, Mary, and happy
anniversary. Hold up a second. Mary.
Happy 8th anniversary.
Congratulations, today. Mary, on 8 years. We're proud of you. That's fantastic. You're the hope. So, and glad to see you living a wonderful life today.
She's the love of my life and my better half.
Right. Awesome. You know, it's amazing how life can get so complex that we can miss the things that we really need to celebrate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, for me, I can get so caught up in the now, right? And whatever we talked about, the difference between problems and challenges, because it's exactly the same fucking thing. It's just how we say it, right?
That's right.
But sometimes I'm so caught up in whatever challenge I'm dealing with at any given moment that I lose
daily life activities.
How fucking miraculous my life really is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, for you, I remember Timmy. Like, I remember like when you first started working for the movie theater, right? And you know, and you were like tattooing yourself and you were painting, right? You know what I mean? Because you were going through an exploration in creativity, right? You know what I mean? And you know, for me, I'm an artist by trade that does all these other things, right? So when you were like painting and, you know, and I've tattooed myself as well. So when you were running the machines and doing that other stuff, there were people that were like, that dude's nuts. And I was like, no, he's not. Like, what he really is he's trying to figure out who he is and what's next, right? You know what I mean? And that's sometimes not pretty and at the same time beautiful. Right? You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely. Like,
it's, you know, it looks chaotic, right? And to people on the outside who are watching it, they just think you're unhinged. But what you're really doing is trying to pull together this salad of thoughts and, you know, and emotions and trying to grind yourself. And now I watch you today with explorations in creativity in ways that most people wouldn't, right? You know, like, because you get to work in, for all intents and purposes, the movie viewing business, right? You get an opportunity. I see you constantly, like, in the latest garb to match the movie in front of the movie poster. I've seen you dressed as more people as characters in more movies than anybody else I've ever seen.
My uncle made a YouTube video, and it's labeled. It's titled "Man of 1,000 Faces."
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll give you the link. He put together a bunch of them. It was about a year ago and stuff. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I love them.
I'm glad to see you still doing it.
Thanks. Right? But as far as the painting, like, I don't know where it came from. I really don't. I was just, I was like, you know what? I want to buy a canvas and I want to see if I can do something. And then I'm like, what am I going to do? So I started.
How old were you?
It was 2019, I guess.
Oh, wow. relatively new then. Huh?
It was
Yeah.
new in recovery.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
And
you
I-
were posting pictures of, look at this thing I painted. And the first ones were rougher, and they became more refined as time went on because you were sorting things out.
I went to the computer and I typed in, give me the 50 best films of all time.
Right.
Jaws was up there.
Right.
I
saw you
forget
with
what it
Jaws hat
was.
when you were rocking them.
And then I started Googling pictures, images from the movie Jaws, and I saw the one where Roy Scheider is chumming, and he looks back, you know, and Jaws comes out of the water. And I said, that's it. That's what I want to do. So I printed that picture out, and I bought the canvas, and I just started going, drawing with a pencil.
Right.
And then after I had it all penciled out, then I added my paint, and I spent, I don't know, 20-some hours on it. And it's down the shore on our shore house living room wall, in our shore house living room wall. Yeah, my dad said, that's got to go down the shore.
Right.
I'm like, you mean it?
Just what I want to see before I go to the beach. Jaws on the wall. You know what I mean? As it is, I'm looking.
That's one of my biggest fears.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. So let's talk about Rob. So, you know, like you've explored a bunch of different things. I think one of the things, based on my knowledge of you, probably your biggest exploration that I know of you is re-immersing yourself in the family business.
Yes.
Like I've seen a lot of that with you.
Yeah.
And, you know, and that comes with its own set of challenges. Now, your dad did he just retire? I think you told me.
Well,
Ish.
me and my sister have been getting along so well that he decided to take a step back and let us take over the restaurant itself. So we changed over the corporation name into our names and did all that stuff
Right.
legally. And
Does he still have a role? Does he come
yeah,
still cook?
he will not stop. We don't want him to stop either. We definitely love having him there. It's just it's a little rough, you know. He's older, getting older, and you know, this is a demanding business, and yeah, he just he still cooks. You know, he still cooks every day. But he's a workaholic, and you know, he loves what he does, and you know, who am I to tell him, you know, take a step back and whatever. But I always joke, I say, you know, he's going to be behind the line in a wheelchair cooking before he stops. You know.
Well, I think about, so thought processes, right? Do you still get enjoyment out of cooking, or is it something,
You know,
does it sap some of the joy out of it because of you're running the business and the books and the, you know.
So for me, I was never the hopeless romantic when it comes to cooking. You know, when chefs are out there, and they're usually chefs, they, you know, fall in love with dishes and they try to replicate and make the perfect dish, you know, unique to themselves, and they take pride in that. I've always been more of like the business person.
Right.
I like, you know, money. I enjoy money, but I also love, you know, creating something to give to the public, and them to appreciate it without, you know, overcharging or anything like that.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So I do get
Hey, by the way, American Bistro,
American Bistro in Folsom,
Folsom,
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, delicious food. If you haven't been there, go out and check it out.
So yes,
It's a
my
good
father put together a few menus in his lifetime, and we were trained in, you know, he taught us. I have no culinary background whatsoever. I did a few years of education, higher education, but other than that, it's French cuisine, Italian cuisine, lots of seafood, but we explore in everything. You know, people, we get feedback from people, and they say we have too much seafood, so we started adding a few meat products. You know, we started serving elk. We serve filet, we serve sirloin, ribeyes.
There aren't many places in Delaware County you can get yourself a nice piece of elk.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. We were out to eat last night, and we went to Collingswood, and I always found it fascinating that restaurant. It was very good, by the way, but I always found it fascinating that restaurants serve veal, but they don't serve like fillets or any other kind of beef.
Right.
It's just odd to me. But you know, pasta's always there, seafood's there, chicken's there, of course.
Carrots.
I do carrots. Yeah. So we do a lot of unique stuff that you won't get anywhere. We pickle our carrots. You know, I always get people asking me what's the recipe, and I'm like, look, I can't tell you. Maybe one day somebody's gonna, you know, invest in us, and we're gonna be able to jar this, or you know, put it in a grocery store.
You told me.
Yeah. I told him, of course, yeah.
You're
But
supposed to die
it
with that
slipped.
recipe.
Yeah, it slipped. You can't say nothing. But still, a lot of our stuff is unique. It's my father. He's the one that taught us everything, and he's kind of perfected certain pairings of like gnocchis and cheese and cream, and everything. And
It's his. That's his.
it's his
passion.
stuff, yeah. And
Right.
we would never ever give it away or anything like that, just because. Like I said, it's supposed to be with him and something to remember him, for.
What do you think will happen on the day when he's not physically able to be worked a line like that anymore?
Yeah,
Will you
so-
bring in a chef?
No, my sister and I both are trained.
Okay.
The difference now is that we don't have to rely on other employees in the front of the house as
Right.
much
Right.
because we have employees that we can hire to help us answer the phones, to servers, bus people. We got dishwasher, stuff like that. But when that happens, me and my sister will go behind the line, and we'll spend 5 days a week behind the line cooking, and we will rely on like a manager. We have a nice girl, Lindsay. She's great. She's been with us for about maybe 7 or 8 years now. She started out 18 years old, and she's fantastic. She really does. She really enjoys her job, and she helps us out a lot. But everybody's a good employee. The good thing about being in recovery is really nobody. We can see the signs of people that are using or drinking or anything like that. Nobody's allowed to drink. Nobody's allowed to use on the job.
Right.
When they leave, they do whatever they want. But it's good because everybody gets along that way.
Difficult in the restaurant industry.
Absolutely.
Because
A lot of
it's
vetting
so
goes on, yeah.
it's so prevalent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So prevalent. What about you? Like you're with the theaters, you are facilities mainly. Would you consider that like your role there? In charge of the
That's my role.
wall, ceiling, floor, everything that has to do with running the theater itself, but not concessions or anything
No,
like that.
no.
Right? Okay.
But there was 2 years of that part-time work prior to where I'm at now. It's funny, someone from the establishment messaged me and said, we got a problem outside of the premises. And I guess this had been like the third or fourth time that I received notification about something on the outside. And I kindly wrote back, Jimmy, sorry, my job description is everything inside.
Yeah.
So I said, you're going to have to send an email because I, quite frankly, was tired of it,
Right.
And normally I'm like,
Well, when you say outside, right? So you're downtown Philadelphia, about as downtown as Julie Brown, bro. Don't get no more downtown this
right,
way, right? So
right.
it's a fucking jungle out there.
Yes, and the
Right.
problem occurred in that jungle.
Right? Well, you know what I mean? Like, and that's, thankfully that your area of responsibility falls on the
Yes.
inside. Because that could be crazy too,
Yes.
frankly. The public at large brings their own challenges. Right?
Yes,
You know what I
right.
mean? Like, but so you how did you end up deciding that you were going to? Did you just be like, I love movies, so this is a good spot for me, or is that I get to watch movies for cheap or free? So this is
6.5 years ago, unemployed, right? Newly fresh in recovery with 30 days and stuff. I went up to see a movie, and then I went again next week. And, I had a lot of movies to catch up on.
right.
Because, so I ended up getting a conversation with, a general manager and stuff. And I said, are you hiring? He said, well, we're always accepting applications. And he said, let me know after you submit your application, and I'll make sure it goes to the top. And yeah, because we had kind of built a relationship in those in like those 4 weeks of me continuously going to see movies, and then we had a group interview with like 26 people. 3 got hired. I was one of them, and then they started me right away, like in concessions, and cleaning theaters, and the facilities manager at this place. Ended up, I went in there and I said, it's a shame you don't have a little help, an assistant. And a light bulb went off in his head, and he came back and he said, suppose I get an extra day or 2 for you. Would you mind giving me a hand? I said, sure, absolutely. And this man was 69 at the time. He had been employed with this company for 30 years. And he trained me. He trained me, and he left. And
You rolled into that
and
position?
and just, yeah. Mm-hmm. Prior to that, I didn't I could use a hammer and nail, and that's about it. Screwdriver.
Right.
And now my knowledge has just... I'm not an expert on everything, and if I can't fix it, we call the big shots in. But I'll do my best, research things, and...
Well, that's what facilities management's really all
Yes.
about. It's about managing an oversight of.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like couldn't fix an HVAC system or do electrical repair myself, but I can bring in contractors to do any one of those
Right.
things.
Those are the two I don't mess with.
Right?
Electrical work, forget it. I'm not trying to electrocute myself,
Yeah.
I got
exactly.
shocked, by the way.
HVAC,
I
yeah.
got shocked
Forget
on a
it.
ladder, thinking I could do something, and I think it was 244 volts.
Forget it.
244 or 277, something like that. Yeah, almost fell off the ladder. Pretty scary. I called someone that's in the business, and he's like, yeah, just call me next time and stuff. So,
And I mean, I'll
right.
try and do things, myself, unless they're too difficult. But like right now, I have a car bumper, front bumper, painted, sitting in a box on my back porch with a grill, because I watched a YouTube video.
Tutorial.
And it looked very easy. These guys, they say it's very easy, and I plan on doing that when there's no heat wave outside, and I have a little help. People are willing to help me nowadays, and instead of bringing it to the body shop and it's already all there and ready to go. So, couple fasteners, couple screws, and hopefully pop this thing off and pop a new one on. But we'll see how it goes. If not, I mean, I know a few friends that actually do body work, so I can always ask them.
Well, it's funny because one of the interesting things about as we progress in recovery, we get to know other people who are also progressing.
Yes.
And one of the, like I say, more common areas of, people, professions. I mean, there's people from all types of professions in recovery. You know what I mean? You'll meet attorneys and physicians.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember one time being in a meeting in Florida and sitting next to a federal judge who was celebrating, many
Wow.
decades. And I just happened to be sitting next to her. She's from Jersey, and we hit it off. And then the next thing you know, I didn't realize because it was a round room that she was going to be the one that was speaking. And when she said what she did, I was like, whoa.
That's
But,
great.
but one of the really cool things about us, and, you said it in a way, but at least in a way, I want to champion something about what you said. And that is that, I try and do things myself.
Yeah.
And I do too. I want to save money.
Yeah.
Right. But also, you with a baby at home.
Yeah.
And Caleb's now? He's what,
Caleb's 9.
9, right. So, so your life is not your own between that and the business.
Exactly.
Right. So what I've found as I've gotten older is, and tried to transition my life, is to try and utilize people to do things that are outside of my realm of expertise. You know what I mean? Like, I appreciate you want to save money, but you could have called my man Stevie Colors and he would have painted that shit quick. You know what I mean? We got it back looking exactly like it was a new car. You know what I mean? Like, he'll actually go extra and do extra things just to make sure, any other dents or whatever need to be taken care of and get your car back looking great. But, but over the years, like, John B., come over and seal coated my, my driveway. And, you know what I mean? Like, I've had, electricians and plumbers and, and people who do carpentry, a guy I know in recovery rebuilt my deck. You know what I mean? So, I try to find people. Oh, so here's the thing, right? Like, I can't necessarily say everybody in recovery has the best skill set. There may be people that are, frankly, who are better skilled at some of the things.
Yeah.
But, and we can tell people who aren't living a spiritually principled life. But people who are trying to live by the spiritual principles in all their affairs set a baseline for me that at least I know this person's trying to be honest. Or at least I know this person's not trying to stick me.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? So over time, I found myself more and more leaning into, having discussions with people that could potentially do other work. Like, I got, another cat who's in the rooms. You both know him. I'm probably going to have him come out and do some tree work for us.
Gotcha.
Because I got a lot of big trees on my property, and, sooner or later, one's going to come down and mess some stuff up. But there's a beautiful thing in that, and also, you know what I mean? Like, realizing that other people have skill sets that, that I could lean into too. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like the whole cooking piece. Like I just put in a smoker called a Rectech.
Oh, you were telling me about
I
that.
told you, I think
Yeah.
I showed you the video of it. You should see this thing. Like it's when I was visiting my best friend in Texas, he was telling me a story, you know what I mean? And Texans, they know their barbecue. And I was like talking about pellet smokers, and he told me like, listen, you know what I mean? Like he told me about a guy who was having a great experience that he knew using, you know, pellet grills. And to me, I have what they call a stick burner, which is an offset grill or offset smoker, right? And it's old school, which means you constantly got to be, you know, keeping up with the temperature. And he was like, you know, as some people call it cheating, and he said, would you rather be cheating or would you rather be eating? And I'm like, oh yeah, I'd rather be eating. So I ordered this thing, and it came in like 2 weeks ago. I had to call Dean to come over and help me out because it was 735 pounds on a skid.
Jeez.
I was like, holy, what did I do? And you should see how big this thing is. So I started watching some videos after I bought it, and guys were like, yeah, I take it to the competition barbecues. And I'm like,
Wow.
oh, shit. You know what I mean? Like, I definitely got more heavy duty than I needed by a long shot. I haven't even really started yet. My wife's like, you know, when are you going to smoke some stuff? I got some chicken. I got some chickens. You know what I mean? Like, we don't smoke that, so we can smoke these meats. You know what I'm saying? We ain't got to live like that no more. But, you know, I have really even scratched the surface by, you know.
did prime it, though, right? I think you were telling me
Yeah,
that
I did prime it, right? And I have done one or two things on it. I'm learning some things. Like, what I'm learning is that there is no one piece of equipment that does everything the way I want it to do it. Right, because I thought this thing is supposed to be a grill and a smoker, and I think as a grill it doesn't sear as well, right? Because it's offset, like it's not meant to put heat directly on something. Yeah. So thankfully I didn't get rid of my propane grill. And then yesterday I was trying to do, and you'll know what this is, I tried to do some steaks Pittsburgh. Yeah. Right, so but it's usually hard for me to get
saute it. Yeah, saute it.
Well, so what I did was when I was up to Poconos, my mom and dad had a place. My dad died in 2007. My mom and dad had a place up the mountains, and they still have it. And it's like run down now, and at some point they'll sell it. But I went up there just to kind of like, I don't know, to beat myself about the head and shoulders emotionally. You know what I mean? Like, because it brought up a lot of feelings. Sure. But I was also like looking to see whether there was anything there that I wanted, strangely enough, before, you know, my mom eventually reaches the time when she wants to sell it. And one of the things I found was my dad used to buy things and then lose them and buy them again. Right, so I go up there and there was like two. They're like a long-handled. It's like a flamethrower with a nozzle on the end of it, like this big around that hooks right to a 20-gallon propane tank. Right. So I said to my wife yesterday, I was like, you know, we went to Capitol Grill in King of Prussia for Father's Day, and the cuts of meat, honestly, like I've gotten the same steak, the same way. I'm like a frequent flyer at that joint. Like, they love me there, you know what I mean? Because I go there a lot. You know what I mean? My kids. They're like, oh, you know, they have their usuals at Capitol Grill if there's any, you know what I'm saying? Wow. So I'm going there and I'm like, my wife and I both get the same steak, and we were like, it wasn't as good this time. And I made the mistake of saying it's always good here. And then strangely enough, it wasn't. Now, I'm not sure if it was Father's Day or what, but I came away thinking to myself, I need to learn how to make a steak Pittsburgh. Well, the only way I've been able to get anything even close right now is to catch my grill on fire. Yeah. Like literally, like I end up with a grease fire because of the fat coming off the steaks, and then the next thing you know, but it's hard to control. So I had the flamethrower in the garage yesterday. So I was like, I said, honey, you know what I mean? I said, pick up some of them good thick ass steaks. So she brought them home, and I was like, I'm out there, and I'm like, it sounds like this space shuttle taking off, bro. I'm like, whoo. The whole grill from edge to edge, from bottom to top, there's flames shooting. So I cooked them, and they came out crust on the outside, but they were just a little overdone, and it's because I should have pulled them off a little earlier to rest. Yeah. But I think I got my technique down. Yeah. So
you got it.
Yeah. The only thing was when I hit it with the flamethrower, like 60 seconds after I hit the grill, it immediately created a grill fire. Did it? And I think the reason why was because it liquefied the fat on the outside of the steak so fast that it literally the steaks just basically almost disintegrated from the heat. But you know.
So you got the technique down. You have the flame. That's what it really comes down to is the flame.
It says between 2,000 and 3,000 degrees on the thing. So you know what I mean?
So we have a 40,000 BTU commercial oven, and
we have salamander
range. We have Imperial we use.
Right.
And I mean the flames get this high.
Right.
So what we do is we have a grill pan for the restaurant for the steaks. So it looks like we grill them in the back, but really it's just a pan that we use, and then we'll let it sit underneath that flame on high for about 4 or 5 minutes until the black starts turning white, and that's how hot it is. Wow. And then you throw the steak on there, and it's a real quick, bing bang boom, and you got yourself a Pittsburgh steak. Really, there's a guy that comes in all the time, once a week at least, by himself, and he orders it every single time. Filet peppercorn, Pittsburgh, and he said he can't find it anywhere else.
It's hard. It's hard to find. I mean, there are places that make it, but you'd be surprised how many steakhouses you say Pittsburgh, and they're like,
"Yeah, what? Yeah,
you know what I mean." So Pittsburgh is like black and bloody, basically. So, but dynamite. So what are you guys? So here's the thing, right? Like, what's your vision? What's your vision for what's next, bro? Like, what are you thinking you want to try next? What's the next thing you want to do?
I don't know. I'm more of like a free spirit. I'm kind of like letting whatever direction
I looked right into
takes
like
me,
take it over.
Whatever direction my life takes me right now, because I'm clean and I'm just observing a lot of things, and I'm trying to figure out what I like to do. Not like trying to figure out who I am, but like I enjoy right now the restaurant, which takes over like I would say 80% of my life. I enjoy stock trading. I mean, that's something I do as soon as I wake up. I learned something called the system from Trader B. Jones, and he actually friend requested me on Facebook right after I got out of prison and from being incarcerated.
Trader B. Jones.
Trader B. Jones, yeah. And
isn't that where you go get those Whole Foods and shit?
So he uses it's Think or Swim. He uses the 10 simple moving average and the 50 simple moving average. And I know it sounds like I'm speaking a different language, but once the 10 crosses above the 50, you go long and you buy stock, and once it crosses down below the 50 from above it, you short it. And it's 30-minute time candlesticks, and that has been a game changer for me. It's been very difficult nowadays, but from that time on, around 2015, 2016, I have been able to, with that system, be accurate around 80 to 90% of the time, which is unheard of. Right. I was playing with a little bit of money then, and I have more money now. I spent a lot of it on, we decided to buy a house and
baby
stuff. I mean,
that's right.
I don't know if it's
new golf clubs
I got, but the
that's
baby,
a necessity.
I gotta have them.
I don't want to get too personal, but Eva is a IVF baby.
Okay.
So that alone right there was a huge chunk of change for me.
Believe it.
Time.
You're not the first person that I know that did that.
Yeah. So when I heard that the president now was going to try and relieve and make IVF and everything associated with that, I think it's called IUI, which we couldn't do, part of medical. I really hope he goes forward with it, because it really is a game changer, and
for people who wouldn't ordinarily be able to get pregnant.
Correct.
Like that.
Yeah.
Right,
exactly. Right. And I wanted one biological child of my own.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I'm so happy. She's just amazing.
How old is she now?
She's 2 years old. She June 13th. She turned
Terrible
two.
twos.
Terrible twos. But it's funny because she's like the Sour Patch Kid. She is just so lovable and just comes up and snuggles with you and hugs you. Daddy. Right. I try to speak German to her a little bit, because I've been learning German since I got incarcerated up until I still do it now. I learned from textbooks, and then now I use Duolingo, because I want her to be bilingual. I mean, I want her to be able to at least recognize and have some kind of fluency in different language. Since we're immigrants anyway. My dad speaks German. He's from Austria. But where was I going with that? Sorry, I forget.
Wherever you wanted to go.
Yeah, I forget.
Wherever you wanted to.
But no, she really is so sweet and lovable, and then she can turn real fast. But it's just, it's baby stuff, She's like the Sour Patch Kid, it's when you see the commercial. And it's just so with my life, I just, wherever it takes me, I'm willing to go. The thing I learned is that I don't want to like own an empire and be like this multi-millionaire or anything like that. I just want to be comfortable enough to retire at 52 like your dad. That's all I want. I just want to live a simple life. Need nothing flashy. I drive a 2012 car. You know, we like to travel. I just want to enjoy the moment. And in fact, I would love to be able just to go to meetings and not have to, worry about money. So, I mean, I do like put some money in bonds and just set it and forget it, as they used to say with that old commercial. And I leave it in there. And I'm hoping by the time I'm like, they're 25 years is the max. So by the time I'm like 65, maybe, let's say, or really like 60, I'll look back and hopefully I have more money than I did when I put it in there, That's all I really want. But hobbies, I can't say I really have a lot of hobbies, to be honest. I don't have time.
We whack a golf ball, right?
We whack a golf ball,
Yeah,
and even then I get out.
And even then, I don't really have enough. I'll never have enough time to be able to invest time to be able to really get better at it.
Right.
So I've seen, you have 2 sons, right?
I have 2 sons.
How old are your boys now?
I'm glad my boys are 13 and 14. So freshmen, well, soon to be sophomore, and then soon to be.
Are they twins?
No, Irish twins.
What's Irish twins?
359 days apart.
Really?
Yes, August 17th, August 23rd. And I'm glad Rob went in front of me there because it gave me a chance to really process some thoughts about your question. And I'll just say this, on my Facebook page, it says, right underneath my timeline photograph, it says, never stop creating projects. Throughout addiction, there were no projects whatsoever. Right. There was nothing except for using.
Right.
So, you get clean, you get creative, you find interests, you figure yourself out, and then things come into play, right? So, I'm a firm believer, just don't stop moving. Netflix is great, Hulu, all that other stuff, sitting on the couch. But I'm more interested in, all right, I haven't taken the dog to the dog park in a while. And then when I get back from there, it's like, oh, such and such movie is about to start at this theater. So let me go over and see that. After that's done, what can I do for my mother? Can I, do something for her? So I'm like, keep busy.
Participating in your life.
Jimmy, I did nothing for years. I don't even know how I graduated college, got engaged, got married, had 2 kids. I might have went to a dinner, once.
Well, let's flip the script a little bit and talk about, okay, so when did you start using? How old were you?
Oh, 14.
Right. What about you?
I was 17.
17. Right. So let's talk about that. Right. So 14 years old, right? You know what I mean? Generally, drinking, right? You know what I mean? And then, does it become immediately unmanageable for you, or?
Pretty much.
Right.
Pretty much. I mean, they say, some we're at different levels. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
So I was like, oh, this beer is great. What else? What else is out there? And then I'll never forget, I'm doing homework in my bed. I think I was doing 1-hitters out the window, something like that, blowing it through that doob tube with the fabric softeners. And then I fall asleep with the bag of weed on my chest. Mom comes through the door. Next thing you know, I'm off to rehab at 16, 15, 16, something like that. Right. When they had adolescents in that one place. I don't know if you know the place I'm talking about, but they had an adolescent program, and they were kind of mixed with the adults. And wow, that was my first experience with all that. And I'm like, they know.
You were 17, right?
Yeah, I was 17. I actually started drinking right around there. It might have been a little bit earlier. And smoking as well. And it was never an issue. It was never an issue at all. But I played sports.
Right.
I played hockey, ice hockey, and I got hurt.
Right.
And I was prescribed Percocet.
Right.
And I fell in love with that. That's what took me, to a whole new realm, a whole new dimension. Once that script ran out, that's when I got sick for the first time, and I thought I had the flu, and it was the worst feeling I've ever felt in my life. And I didn't know what was going on until somebody at the restaurant said, "You are withdrawing from opiates," and I was like, "What?" I thought everything was like weed. I thought everything was like alcohol. Like,
Yeah,
you wake up the next day, got a little hangover. Yeah,
Right.
I was young. I was naive, And there was a guy that I knew, because at the time, oxys were in play.
Yep.
And he was the
I
only
remember.
one. He was the only one I knew that was driving and getting them and this, that, and the other. And
They're next level from perks.
Next level.
That's
And
level.
that is what took me out.
Right.
It took me from 17 to 24 before I ever blinked an eye and had to go through any kind of detox or rehab or anything like that. But once I did end up going away, I didn't take it seriously.
Mm-hmm.
The second time is when I was like, maybe I should listen to what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been the key to me this whole entire time, is just listening to people in recovery about recovery topics. And that's it. Ever since then, I just listen to people that have more time than me and take their suggestions. And it's kind of been, it's probably been the best decision of my life. But, there's been multiple relapses in between there. But when I was 28, that's when the last time, and that's, something clicked and that obsession was gone. And I think that was the first time in about 10 years, 11 years, from 17 to 28, when I didn't have to think about using in the morning just to get by. And I never looked back ever since.
People don't understand, or I don't say people. I think some people don't understand the grip.
Yeah.
What that grip really is like. I got a great perk story. I don't know if I've ever told this perk story on the show, but I'll go there. So, you know what I mean? Like, if anybody's watching this show and be like, hey, man, he said that once before, just trust and believe. You'll get old someday, too, and not remember the shit you said.
That's a good thing also about working for yourself and owning your own business. You don't have to worry about a lot of, backlash, I guess you would say, from management or anything like that.
To a point.
Yeah,
So there are some people that, when they understand my story at a deeper level, might consider me somebody that they wouldn't want to do business with because of my history.
Yeah.
There are other people that realize that, that my position is miraculous now, frankly, and, and actually addiction's touched everybody's lives.
Exactly.
And those who stand in judgment don't understand the grip.
They're the minority.
A good example
now,
is okay, so I'm in the Navy. It's 1990, probably 1995. So I worked on the flight deck of an aircraft carrier. So it was 120 degrees ambient air temperature. Like you're in the Persian Gulf, you know what I mean? Like, I drink 2 gallons of water and not pee. I just sweat. Mm-hmm. And I'm constantly lifting weights, and I'm taking mega packs, which are like these vitamin packs with amino acids, and I'm hitting the gym a couple times a day, because I'm angry. So there's no women, you know what I mean? It's hot, it's dangerous. So I started making kidney stones. So, and the level of excruciating is unreal. Like, it's unreal. And so I had already had more than one kidney stone, and I had what they call a basket surgery, where they went in through my junk and yanked a fucking rocket. They gave me a epidural, so they knocked me out. They made a paraplegic from the neck down to go get this bad boy.
Man.
So it wasn't so it was straight legit. You know what I mean? Like, that thing was the size of a number 2 pencil eraser and was stuck in my system up here, and I was just in excruciating pain, throwing up. So 1995, I got another one. So when I was in the military, they had a zero tolerance policy for drugs. So if you pop positive once, you're basically getting processed out with other honorable discharge, and could even be a bad conduct discharge, depending on how they handled it. So, and I was scared to death of getting kicked out. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to come out and have a piece of it after all the danger and the craziness I went through to get out, and then not have, to have that blemish follow me for the rest of my life. So, but if you got prescribed from medical, you got prescribed shit, you were good. So I got another kidney stone. So they went over and they put me in this thing where they inject this dye into your system, and then they take pictures with an X-ray. As the dye flows through your system, when it hits the rock in your system, it creates a block.
Okay.
So if they look at your kidneys, they can see one spot where it's backed up,
Yeah.
like a, it looks almost like, like a
Dam.
yeah, right, like a dam,
Dam.
like it's dammed. So, and then the pressure on the edge of it's pushing that rock through little by little at a time and just killing it.
Tearing you apart. Yeah.
So they're like, oh, well, we don't think you should get surgery this time. We think you'll pass it on your own. So we're going to send you home with this giant jar of Percocet.
There you go.
It was like this. Send you home with this giant jar of Percocet and you can pass it on your own. So now I got like a piece of paper that's basically your get out of jail free card. Gives me the ability to eat these perks.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm not eating them like prescribed. I'm eating them like, woohoo! You know what I mean? Like, this is awesome. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm partying eating these perks. So I got down, the jar was like depleting. I got down to like, maybe the last 2 dozen perks. And the weekend was coming up. And I was like, they said that if they were going to look in my system and check to see if the stone was still there. It was like a Thursday or a Friday. And they were like, if the stone is still there on Monday, then we'll have to give you another script of perks and keep it going. So Friday afternoon, I stopped drinking water. And I rode out that weekend with that kidney stone in my system. So Monday, when they did that x-ray, they saw it and re-upped my perk.
Yeah.
So I was willing to deal with the most excruciating pain there was, just so. And literally, they gave me that script, they came home, I slugged 2 gallons of water back to back, and ping, I shot that thing out. And then I didn't say anything until I was out of perks, and was like, oh, I guess it's gone now, you know what I mean? But the truth is that people don't understand the justification and rationalization and what we will do, you know what I mean, just to stay using.
That's right. That's
right. You know what I mean? And the perks certainly weren't the oxys. I wasn't there yet at that point. But I guess the thought process is that everybody that just looks at people that, as though they're weak or that they don't have willpower doesn't really understand the nature of the disease and how much of a grab it really has on you when it does. Yeah. Now you, on the other hand, so you went to rehab when you were like what, 15, 16?
Yeah.
Right? But you didn't get to recovery until you were.
I mean, they took us to meetings, but I was like, this is a joke.
So what was the gift of desperation that brought you to the meeting?
Well, I was always like an upper, always loved to be up and stuff, not down. When someone tried to get me down, I was like, no, this is not what I want. Until there was a snowboarding accident with me. And I'm stuck in the woods, and, ski patrol comes out there. They bring me on the snowmobile, take me down the mountains, and my legs broke in half. And big bottle of Percocets. Come home with me. Only I was in a halfway house, in a recovery home, right? Up in northeastern Pennsylvania, and they were like, you got to go. You can't be eating these things here. And that's where I fell in love with them, And then I said, that speed can my uppers can take a break.
Right.
Now I got these now and stuff. And then pretty much after that, it was a combination of both of them, at the end.
It's funny how most people and how common it is. I know when Georgie was in here, it was the same conversation. He had, broke his lower leg, I think it was, playing baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And, and how many people arrive that, got their real taste from injury.
Yeah.
How common that is. And, not to say that there aren't plenty of people that arrive because of recreational use, and that happens too. And sometimes there's a little blend of both. But when they integrate in, some of the, the more powerful drugs, sometimes that's the hook. I mean, for me, in art college, when, we're going back into the late 80s, you know what I mean? Like a lot of the pain I faced at that point was, probably more emotional and psychological pain, just feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And here I was in a situation where it was kind of like I didn't really know anybody, and the slate was set clean. And it was like, when you don't know who you are, you try and craft what you think will chameleon up with others. and I was in art college, and there was no sports.
Right.
There was no, their drugs were, that was sports.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? In art college, that's what they did. And immediately it was like, well, if this is going to be, I am going to be the king of sports. You know what I'm saying? It was like, you know, if this is how you be popular here. But I also didn't understand, you know, how to, I remember my dad. So this is a movie thing. So you're gonna dig this. So 1978, maybe.
That's the year I was born.
Superman, the first Superman.
Okay.
Do you want to say Superman 1? Because there was no, it was just Superman.
Superman.
And a movie called Excalibur. John Borman's Excalibur came out. And my dad took me, you know, I was born in 69, took me to a drive-in movie theater in Conshohocken, right at the 5 Points intersection at Ridge Pike in Germantown.
Okay.
Right there. It's long since gone. It's a industrial or commercial industrial place now, but it was just a big field with the old school. You know, they don't do, you know, drive-in movie theaters anymore like that. But it was the old school, John, where you pulled the speaker into your window and rolled it up. You know what I mean, and that type of thing. And you know, my dad, cool. You know what I mean, like doing things with his son was like, let me take him to the drive-in.
Mm-hmm.
So we go to this drive-in movie theater. I don't know if I've ever told this story before, but we go to the drive-in movie theater, and my dad was a big man, right? You know what I mean? Like he was type 1 diabetic from the age of 24, I think. So so he couldn't drink because it would kill you. And, you know, so his drug of choice was food. My dad was always a big man, even as a young man, you know what I mean? But once that happened, it was kind of like, this is what you can do. Mm-hmm. At those years, they told you that, you know, they told you that you'd be lucky if you lived to be a certain age. They just basically, like, there weren't treatments for things like that. And type 1 diabetes is far different than type 2. Yeah. Like, it's severe. Yeah, it's severe. So he took me to this drive-in movie theater, you know what I mean? And just he and I. And at that time, I was an only child. That was before my brother was born. My brother's 10 years my junior. So we go to this movie theater, and he's like, let's go hit the snack bar, right? So we go to the snack bar, and we get to the entrance. Now, you're talking about 70s. So there's this, you know, pretty sister with the big, giant afro with the pick in the side, you know what I mean? And she's smoking just a fat-ass joint as we're going in the entranceway. And my dad, she said, hell, she said, I'll give anybody some. And she handed it to my dad. And they had like this bone session standing there at the entranceway at the snack bar. And afterwards, we went through the snack bar and he bought, you would need a wheelbarrow to buy hot dogs and, you know, candy and cool popcorn. And there wasn't anything he didn't buy. And on the whole way back to the car, he laughed like a little boy. He just laughed. And we got back to the car, and we sat in the car. And I think at that point, he had a bit of a realization, and that was me as a young boy had seen him use.
Wow.
And he looked at me and he said, son, everything is good in moderation. And to me, what I heard was, that's okay to do. Mm-hmm. Now, it took me until I probably didn't smoke my first joint until I was like 15. But at least in part, somewhere deep in my brain case was only in moderation. Mm-hmm. Except I didn't have the ability to moderate anything. You know what I mean? Like as soon as I, you know, everything that I did, I was immediately like, this is my next thing that I love. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, drinking, this was the next thing I love. Smoking weed, this is the next thing I love. Yeah. Doing acid, this is the next thing that I love. You know what I mean? Until the point where, and I told this story a couple weeks ago, I'm literally on Broad Street, Broad and Pine at 2:30 in the morning, you know, with my eyes like pie plates because I ate all this acid, taking pictures of pregnant hookers and, you know, and their pimps, you know what I mean? Like, and they're yelling at me, like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I got a 35 millimeter camera, like, hold still, you know what I mean? They're like, get out of here, white boy. You know what I mean? I'm just trying not to get shot or stabbed out there. I didn't realize the implications aspirations of what I was doing. You know what I mean? And I think for most of us, I think it all starts out as,
Fun and games.
Fun and games, or, a necessity, until it is a necessity, and a different kind of necessity. It's the necessity of no choice. So, and it's good to be able to tell stories like that.
Sure.
It's good to hear some commonality between you both, right? And that is that, the real off to the races was, injury. Because I think, I'm not going to say that it's, I'm going to say that there's probably more commonality than people realize if you went to the Badlands, to Kensington, and walked the streets and asked people, you know what I mean, that what led to, before you got to the gift of desperation, like where did this thing really take off? And you'll find more people than most people realize came from injury. Came from injury. And opiates are a strong grab once they got you. And frankly, during the era where both of you guys were running hard, was a time when, when the pill farms were going.
Exactly.
Hard.
I've been watching a lot of stuff, finally coming out about, and then it's all like clicking now. It's like, I just can't believe that like this was allowed to happen.
Right.
With the Sackler family and Purdue Pharma and all this stuff.
100%.
And I turned him onto a show a long time ago.
I was just going to say it.
And that was the first time that I was like, wow, they really actually made a series about my life. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't me in the show, but it was like, this is exactly what happened to me.
Do you know what he's talking about?
What's the name of the movie?
It's a
show.
TV show.
Dope Sick with Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
He's like, Tim, you got to watch this. This was like 2.5, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And I finally, after sitting on it for 6 months, gave it a try. And like after the first episode, I'm like, all right, I can see why he wanted me to watch this, Yeah. And it was nominated for awards too, that show. Yeah.
It's the biggest con in the world with the FDA and everything like that. And, they hired, I forget what it was, like the main guy at the FDA to work for the Sackler family after that, So they got their drug approved. Because they said that it was in a capsule that was time release, and it was the least addictive product out of any opiate on the market because of the coating. Well, everybody knows you can just strip that coating right off if you really want to. Number one, number two, and then number two is that it was a lie all in general from the beginning. Like obviously, you were talking about high potency narcotic opiates being in any system, any person is going to cause addiction. But they did a lot of things like that, and there's just it's the biggest scam.
I think it's transit. I think, and this is what I'm about to say is somewhat controversial, and there will probably be some pushback from this, but it is what it is. This is just my opinion. This is just not fact. That the transition has been from the drugs associated with using to the drugs associated with recovery, right? That I've found hearing many stories of people who are in, recovery programs, and they're not opiate addicts. And they're like, well, you know what I mean? Like, you should be on a maintenance program of some type or another.
Yeah. And
think to myself, like, and I have no opinion on that specifically. I've learned that my opinion could get people killed. Right? You know what I mean? So, and frankly, you can't graft recovery on a dead body. Right? So, however long it takes, obviously I hope for people to achieve the freedom associated with not being tied to any of those things at some point, but everybody, there's more than one way to the top of the mountain. You know what I mean? There was a Japanese philosopher named Musashi said that. I dig that because it's true.
Yep.
So, but I do think that there's a financial play to be had that went from drugs that came by way of things like pill mills, and now the pharmaceutical companies are positioning themselves on the other side.
Yeah.
Right? There's a financial influx that's felt by recovery centers. Recovery centers and addiction treatment centers, frankly, know that their statistics drive, their success statistics drive their enrollment. So to them, whatever statistics serve them best, are statistics that, appear like success and frankly are success. So they can say, well, we have a high rate of success of people coming out of this program and then going on to live fruitful lives. But many of those people come out of those programs then hooked on something else that they're having difficulty getting away from. Yeah. And for a long time, I dealt with people who arrived in recovery that either felt uncomfortable because, hell, nobody feels comfortable when they come to recovery as it is. And also feeling uncomfortable because here they are because they'd like to be able to celebrate, right? You know what I mean? Like clean time. But the way, some 12-step programs work is that it's clear about how they calculate that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the hard part, the challenge is that we're fighting an uphill battle because the fellowship that we share, is a global nonprofit fellowship, right? It's not driven by finance.
Right.
But on the other side is a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of money on the other side. And, and sometimes I feel like we're pissing in the wind because there was a point where it was just like literally an influx of everybody who arrived at the rooms was trying to navigate their way through, well, now I'm on this, drug that was prescribed to me and was legitimately prescribed by a doctor, right? And how do I navigate my way through, a recovery program that's pretty cut and dry and clear about how we calculate what is clean? And I buried a friend of mine 2 years ago that went from clean, that was a sponsee that I got high together for many years, who was then California clean because he was out in California, and California clean was like they could, smoke weed and, and another thing. And I remember like he was telling me about, and how quickly it undermined his spirituality. And suddenly he was talking about like, the star that you would be very familiar with that he was putting chairs away with at a meeting. Or, you know what I mean? And he was starstruck by that. And I was just kind of like, like what really ended up happening was that chemical influence, without that, whatever that chemical influence is, it really blocks your ability to be able to feel your feelings. And a feeling, dealing, and healing is how we get better. And you block the feeling piece. And that, frankly, that's a fucking shitstorm for all of us. You don't learn how to deal and heal, and you don't. I think it proportionately undermines growth. So, the hard part for me is that, the thought process that, that the money driving factor that caused the pill mills in the first place, the Sackler family and all those things, that still exists in the pharmaceutical industry in some ways, except now it's sanctioned in a way that it wasn't before.
Right.
And some kind of safeguard, So we have more knowledge on it. They have more knowledge. They always knew that it was addictive, but now they dealt with like being conned, I would say. So now they just have a set of rules, I'm assuming, that are just like, don't even talk to me about it because I don't want to hear it. That's what I would say at the FDA. But I
Was that one not recording the whole time?
No, it just shut off.
Oh, it just shut off? That's cool. I'm not worried about it. If it shuts off again, we'll turn it back on. Probably shut off because it got hot.
Yeah.
Because I'm so hot. So did either of you know Pilot?
No.
Okay, Pilatos Sergatsalu, miss you, brother. I remember when we buried Pilot, and he was my ride or die homie. I went to a lot of meetings together, and he was in and out a bunch of times. He was also, selling real estate and doing a lot of other things. I miss you, Pilot. And we shared sponsors, and the day of his funeral, Pilot, obviously, Pilatos, he was Greek. And at the Greek church that we were at, you could hear his mother inside, and and the screams that came out of her were something that was indescribable, the pain that she was dealing with. He buried, when we buried him, he left 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter. And his son swam up to me when I was still living in Drexel Hill and said, you're my dad's friend, Jimmy? You know what I mean? And I took one look at him and saw his nose and his blue eyes and realized that it was young Pilot. It was Pilot Jr. But the one thing I remember that Big Al said to me standing on the steps outside, teary-eyed, we hugged each other. He said, we got a lot of work to do, right? You know what I mean? And recently I was asked to share my experience, strength, and hope it was almost like a barbecue, as a group of men, out on the Delaware River. And, and I thought, what should I champion? Like, because we get clean time, right? And then we get lives. And it's so easy in the process of getting clean time and getting lives that we forget that, there are people that are just like us in the very early stages of recovery, right? That need to be showed love. Yeah. And it's hard for me because we're so busy in a meeting catching up with our old homies or, the golf score that we just got or, you know what I mean? Or frankly, even because our lives are so busy, we don't really get to attend very many meetings at all, frankly, which kind of is a shame in a way because the one thing the pandemic brought us that was wonderful was a global fellowship where we're networked together digitally. So you can attend meetings all over the world, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You know what I mean? There is really no excuse to not make a meeting. And people who say Zoom meetings don't know that it's not a Zoom meeting, it's a meeting. There is no such thing as a Zoom meeting. It just happens to be digital, right? But the point of the matter is that, there are people out there that we can still help. And the one way we can help them is we can show up at a meeting. And another way we can help them is by carrying the message to the still sick and suffering addict on the street, by how I live my life today. And then we can carry the message by having conversations like this.
I think there's a certain fear that people have. They've made friends early.
Right.
They've watched those friends leave. So a couple of those times, and you're like a little standoffish. For me, I remember my friends have changed, in these 6.5 years, I remember very deep communication with several people that are just gone now. Right. And I'm not saying I won't do it again, but there's times where I feel like I haven't been so friendly, with people that I've never seen before. And but maybe it's that person that shares at the meeting that talks about our newcomers, and the importance of showing love. And then after the meeting ends, that's when I go over, introduce myself and, oh, my name's right here on that phone list. Give me a ring. Right. It happens, but not often enough, and that's just keeping it real and honest, man. And I have my friends, I've got those guys that are like, men and women that just are going to be there, hopefully going to be there. But I do know anything can change at any time. It's scary.
Well, we can raise the bar. And I guess what I'm saying is the way we refresh our recovery, right? You know what I mean? Is by integrating people who are closer to the drug. So, the interesting thing was we took a minute or two break, and during that minute or two break, sometimes some really cool things come out. Sometimes some really cool conversations come out pre-show, you know what I mean? Like, we'll come up with topics and and I'm like, fuck, I wish we would have talked about that on the actual show. And Tim had started saying some things here that, and I was like, and he was like, what do you think about that? And I was like, I think I'm going to save it for the show. You know what I mean? Because I wanted to make sure we didn't lose it. So, when, dancing on a volcano, you know what I mean? The title, came from some influence from a song, a Genesis song, an old Genesis song that I like called Dancing on a Volcano. But the obviously, like, there's a bunch of different meetings underlying it. And I said to Dean when I first come up with the title name, I didn't even know what it was going to be called. I was in here building a studio. I didn't know I was just like, it was kind of like Field of Dreams. Like, if you build it, they'll come. Like, I didn't know what we were going to do with it. I didn't know what the topic was going to be. I was just like, I'm just going to build a podcast studio and then we'll make something out of it. Right. And one day I said to my son, what do you think about Dancing on a Volcano? And he was like, yeah, I think people might get it. Right. So, but it's amazing how many people I bring in here and we start having a conversation and somewhere along the line they go, hey, and that was what we were talking about. You know what I mean? Like, stopping using, right? You know what I mean? And the lives that we lived, sometimes in recovery, people say we live multiple lives. We have two birthdays. We have our belly button birthday and we have our recovery birthday, right? And with the recovery birthday, you know what I mean? Like, that's really like, it represents however long it takes to stop using, right? And then losing the desire to use for me, you know what I mean? Although very, very hard, it slipped away like a thief in the night. Didn't tell me it was on his way out. Just one day I just woke up with it. You know what I mean? It wasn't there anymore. But you talked about the dance. And I was thinking about it like, yeah, dance is a celebration, right? And dance is finding a new way to live, right? And we talked about that, you know what I mean? Like, you know, explorations in family and rebuilding relationships, you know, in business, you know, in friendships, in travel, you know what I mean? In, you know, investments, like all these. Who the fuck are we? Right? Compare ourselves to older versions of ourselves. You know what I mean? They say comparison's the enemy. It is the enemy of joy, except one comparison, and that's the comparison of a former version of me that hasn't grown to the level that I'm at now. That's a comparison that's worth having, right? But dancing, right? You know what I mean? Like, we talk about dancing as something that it's joyous, right? It's a celebration. You know what I mean? Like, it's finding a new way to live, right? But I'm not sure if you ever watched Seinfeld, the episode where she dances and it's...
I was just thinking of that.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm, right.
10 seconds before you said it.
Elaine has this episode in Seinfeld where she's dancing and she's having a great old time at it. And it is the most like uncomfortable looking thing you ever saw.
Little
right?
kicks.
Yeah, little kicks and twerks, and it's just, and the dance is not always pretty, right? But it don't fucking have to be, right? It still beats the fuck out of the edge of the volcano every day long.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that from time to time, I get closer and further away from the edge of the volcano based on my own decisions, right? Through an inability to accept personal responsibility, right? I can actually create my own problems, right? You know, a misnomer, you know, the false belief in recovery is that we consistently get better and it's, you know, and the dance is always pretty. And for me, my dance is somewhere between sometimes like, you know, ballet and sometimes like Seinfeld. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it's because it's not linear.
Or mosh pit.
Fucking right. He was just at Metallica and he was down there in the mosh pit the whole time. I was up in the audience looking down on him going, yo, he's getting it. He's catching a beat down there. You know what I mean? So, but the thought process is, and what I wanted to share with, you know, somebody that might be listening to this and might be perhaps maybe looking for some hope is that the dance is still the dance, right? And even though sometimes it might not be beautiful, it still beats the shit out of where we were, right? And so if you're out there and you're watching this and you're thinking to yourself, oh, that sounds really cool, but recovery is for those people, I could never get this. Trust and believe you can, that it's possible for you. And you can do this too. An addict, any addict that doesn't use even for just one day is a miracle. So, you know, I'm honored and privileged to share friendships with both you boys, right? You know, both in recovery and then, you know, out on the golf course or the conversations that we have. Some of them are pretty deep. You and I have conversations that are pretty deep. We went and saw a movie together that was pretty dynamite. We had deep conversations. You and I just played golf recently, and some of the conversations we had in the cart, I could give a shit about how well I golfed. The conversations in the cart were banging. You know what I mean? Because it was really about it was about the dance.
By the way, there will be a part 3, and you will be there.
Oh yeah, mm-hmm. We're gonna go see Dune Part 3 coming soon. We're gonna get down. All I gotta say is I still got the popcorn container. It looks like some sort of weird sadistic sex machine. This thing, you know what I mean? So, but you know, I'm honored and privileged to share the journey with you boys. This was an experiment, and I think it was an experiment that worked pretty well. Great. I'm kind of happy about it. I love you boys.
Love you too, man.
Dancing on a volcano. This is how we do.
This was great.
We usually do with some fist pounds. Let's do that right there. Love you boys.
Love you too, man.
Thanks for coming out.
Thanks for having us, dude.
Dancing on a Volcano. Don't miss it. More episodes coming soon. 2025. This is how we do. Love you all. Peace. That's it. Shut down.
Bingo.